Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar, your host, and today, me and Kismet are going to brief you about 4 things to look out for when Prime Minister Narendra Modi comes to Washington, D.C. on his visit, on his state visit to the United States. This is one of the best and the most, shall we say, respectful and celebratory manner in which America receives and honors foreign heads of states by inviting them to a state visit. There's a lot of pomp and ceremony and a lunch or dinner at the White House. But in addition to that, Prime Minister Modi has also been invited to address the joint session of the U.S. Congress. Both the Senate and the House will be in attendance. This is something that is honor has been granted to him for a second time. He spoke, I think, in 2016, and now he'll be speaking again. He's one of the very few international leaders who have been given this great opportunity. So while there will be a lot of positive statement made about India-US relations, about India's democracy, about India's fabulously growing economy, India's role in the international system, India as a leader of the global South. There will be a lot of platitudes really out there. So in the midst of this, there are 4 things that I think India watchers should keep an eye on. Number one, at the end of all of these ceremonies, what is the US offering India beyond the deal for General Electric jet fighter engines, the F-414? Don't misunderstand me. That deal in itself is significant. It's a game changer as far as India is concerned. India has been struggling to develop a really top of the line jet fighter for its Air Force. For a long time, it has struggled with engines. It has imported foreign engines to build indigenous fighter planes like the NAT and Tejas 1. But the fact that F-414 will be manufactured in India will actually make sure that India has some of the best jet fighters available and they would be indigenously manufactured. So Tejas 2 will be essentially flying on F-414s, and this technological capability, which is a product of what we call as ICET, or Initiative in Critical Emerging Technologies. So basically, there is a military industrial cooperation taking place between the United States and India. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was just in India. He came back and finalized this. So this will enhance India's capability. And I think the formal signing of the deal will take place when Prime Minister Modi is visiting President Joe Biden at the White House. So that is important, and if only that happens, it is worthwhile for India. But what more is the United States offering beyond this? The US wants to sell a lot of weapons to India. There's no doubt India is the biggest defense market. But what else is the US offering to India in terms of transfer of technology, transfer of capabilities, and also essentially investments in various critical sectors of the Indian economy? Is all of that going to happen? So one thing to look out is what more beyond F-414 is on the offering at this celebratory meeting between the Prime Minister and the President. The second thing that we should look out for is what are the demands that are going to be made of India? I mean, there is no free lunch. So if the United States is offering all of this, what is India expected to offer in return? Is India expected to sign a military alliance against China? Or is there more? What are the demands? Is India expected to allow bases along Mumbai and Calcutta, this famous Vishakhapatnam, important ports of India? Will there be US Navy presence going forward in the future as US tries to contain China's domination of the Indo-Pacific region? What are the demands that the US is going to make of India? Will it demand that India condemn the Russian invasion of Ukraine, distance itself from Russia, perhaps even participate in sanctions against Russia and help Ukraine, or they have sort of grandfathered India's posture towards Russia with regards to Ukraine, and there will be no discussion of that as far as U.S. India relations are concerned. So that is another thing to really keep an eye upon. And of course, will there be demand on curtailing India's growing cooperation with Iran and the Taliban in Afghanistan? So the second point that I think that we need to keep an eye on is what are the demands that the United States are going to make of India during these, as India and US become closer and closer. It just can't be one way. It just can't be US giving technology, sharing intelligence, promoting India in international arena. What is India bringing to the table? The third thing that I think that we need to look at with regards to strategic options is the US going to demand that India basically adopt a more aggressive and confrontational posture towards China, that India use its good offices in the global south and use its good offices and good relations with ASEAN to essentially try and curtail and contain China's growing influence in these two regions of the world. The third thing is basically a continuation of the second thing, is what are the demands of the United States. And the fourth thing that we need to keep an eye on is how the US administration handles questions from the press. Of course, Prime Minister Modi will not obviously have a free-flowing press conference at all, but US leaders will. And so how does the United States answer questions with regards to India's human rights record? The State Department recently published a very scathing report on India's international religious freedoms issues and India's domestic human rights scenario. And also the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom for the last 4 years has been recommending to the State Department that the State Department label India as a country of particular concern. So far, the questions that have been asked of spokespersons from the White House is how can Prime Minister Modi be invited to the White House and the Congress when India is backsliding on democracy? So when broad questions are asked, which are critical of India's democracy, it's very easy for American officials to simply push back and saying India is a vibrant democracy, which it is. India is in the top 40, 45 democracies in the world. It is in the same category of struggling democracies like the United States, France, Israel, and India. So as far as America is concerned, the US is in the same boat as India is. But nevertheless, if specific questions are asked, it will be interesting to see. Right now, the administration is simply pushing back by saying India is a very vibrant democracy. If you don't believe it, go to Delhi and see for yourself. So these are the four things I think that we need to look out. And in the fourth category, with regards to criticism of India's human rights record, we also need to look at how the diaspora responds. Clearly, Prime Minister Modi is very popular with the Indian diasporas everywhere, but there is a strong constituency, at least in the United States, which is very critical of Prime Minister Modi and India's current treatment of its minorities and the Dalits and the Sikhs. So we will see. We'll have to see how much of protests are there. Are they significant, and how loud are these voices, and how much attention does the American media pay to critical voices in the United States, who are very concerned and worried about the growing partnership between the U.S. and India. They fear that India's strategic significance and America's strategic need for India's support is compelling the US government to basically ignore the promise of making human rights a central concern of the Biden administration's foreign policy, as Biden made That was Biden's campaign promise, and one of the most important items on his agenda to make human rights the central component of US foreign policy. And the critiques of US-India relations do not see that. So we will see how much noise they're able to make and spoil the party. So I hope you found this brief conversation helpful. If so, please subscribe to Khanversations if you've not already done so. Like the video, ring the bell icon, and share this with your friends and colleagues. And of course, during and after the Prime Minister Modi's visit, I will continue to talk about these things. And at some point, we will go back and take a look at these 4 items that I have identified as significant and see if we can, we'll see how they fared. So until then, please like the video and share it with your colleagues. And if you are in Trinidad, if you live in Trinidad and you're a subscriber of Khanversations, please contact me by email on askprofkhan@gmail.com, askprofkhan@gmail.com. I will be visiting Trinidad this week, and if time permits, and if there is interest, and if there are Khanversation subscribers in Trinidad, I know a few of them whom I will be definitely meeting in official capacity, but if there are those whom I have not met with yet, I would be happy to have coffee or tea with you in Trinidad. Take care. Bye.